What do a Latin American strongman, a Marvel villain, and the current US president all have in common? Charisma? Power? Yes, but also something far more dangerous, the desire to rule without limits. Let's connect the dots. This video isn't about political ideology, it's about power, and how leaders across time and even fiction have followed disturbingly similar patterns when their goal is not just to lead, but to stay in control indefinitely. As of 2025, Donald Trump is serving a second term as president, something once considered unlikely after the chaos of his first. More troubling, he's already hinted at finding ways around the 22nd Amendment, the very law meant to prevent any president from holding power indefinitely. Sound familiar? It should, because it's the same playbook Hugo Chávez followed in Venezuela. And for those who love pop culture, Marvel's Kingpin followed a similar path, minus the ballots. One of the most striking similarities between Hugo Chávez, Donald Trump, and the fictional Wilson Fisk, also known as Kingpin from Daredevil Born Again, is how each positioned themselves as the only authentic voice of the people. Not just representatives, but embodiments of a nation's will. Chávez famously declared, "I am not a man, I am the people," elevating himself above politics into something almost sacred. He cast himself as the hero of the poor and the enemy of elites. His speeches were emotional and polarizing, designed to energize his base and silence dissent. Trump has leaned into a similar narrative, especially during his second term. His 2024 campaign slogan, "I am your retribution," turned personal vengeance into national justice. From early on, he portrayed himself as a persecuted outsider facing off against a corrupt media, legal system, and global elite. His rallies have become performances, dividing real Americans from internal enemies. Even years into office, he insists that only he can fix a broken system. Even in fiction, Kingpin mirrors this dynamic. He doesn't present as a criminal but as a misunderstood protector of Hell's Kitchen. Through philanthropy and calculated media appearances, he crafts the image of a savior while consolidating power behind the scenes. The thread connecting them? A worldview in which they alone are legitimate while opponents, media, and institutions are corrupt forces to be crushed. Populism fused with nationalism becomes a shield, not for the people but for power. Criticism is betrayal. Opposition is treason. This strategy is effective because it builds emotional loyalty. It tells people, if you attack me, you attack the nation. If I fall, the country falls. In that mindset, democratic debate becomes dangerous, and blind faith becomes patriotism. Once a leader convinces people that only they can represent the true will of the people, rewriting the rules becomes easier. Hugo Chávez dismantled Venezuela's democratic framework piece by piece. He rewrote the constitution, dissolved Congress, and stacked the courts with loyalists, all in the name of revolution. Trump hasn't gone that far yet, but red flags are everywhere. His attacks on institutions like the DOJ and the Fed have eroded public trust. He demands loyalty from judges and federal agencies. He's called prosecutors traitors and pledged to purge the deep state to install a government of the people. Most concerning, he's floated the idea of overturning presidential term limits. He's openly mused about revisiting the 22nd Amendment, first as a joke, then with increasing seriousness. Kingpin in Daredevil Born Again doesn't just work around the law, he rewrites it. Once in power, he forms a private enforcement force that bypasses all democratic oversight. They answer only to him. His legal reforms are not debated, they are imposed. In each case, legal structures are seen as obstacles. Once enough people believe the system is broken, anything from bypassing courts to dismantling Congress can be justified as reform. That's how populism becomes authoritarianism. Power, once shared and limited, becomes centralized. Chávez achieved it through legal manipulation, Kingpin through violence. Trump is laying the groundwork, and with another term, the boundaries may be next. As power concentrates, it shifts from systems to individuals, leaders become movements, institutions fade, personal loyalty becomes the measure of patriotism. Chávez mastered this. He was more than president, he was El Comandante. His face was on murals, his voice on weekly TV shows, his image immortalized even after death. The revolution wasn't about Venezuela, it was about him. Trump has followed suit. MAGA is not just a slogan, it's a brand. His face is on flags. His words bypass traditional media via Truth Social and live streams. He has launched a state-funded news outlet, The American Voice, echoing the same tactics Chávez used with state media. Even criticism of Trump is treated as betrayal. Loyalty to him is equated with love of country. Many of his supporters no longer differentiate between America and Trump. Their allegiance is not to a party or a constitution, but to a man. Kingpin takes this even further. He constructs a myth of himself as a benevolent guardian. Every speech, every photo, every appearance is designed to reinforce one idea: he is the city's only hope. He becomes a symbol, a legend, and legends, unlike leaders, are above question. What ties them together is the erasure of boundaries between leadership and identity. The leader doesn't serve the nation, he becomes the nation, and once that happens, democratic institutions become irrelevant. When loyalty is personal and institutions are weakened, the next phase begins: establishing enforcement mechanisms that operate outside the rule of law. Chávez relied heavily on colectivos, paramilitary civilian groups who used violence to intimidate dissenters. Armed, unaccountable, and loyal, they enforced his will under the guise of protecting the revolution. Trump hasn't gone this far in practice, but the rhetoric is shifting. He has proposed forming a presidential security corps, a federal force answering only to him, meant to protect the country from internal threats, a term he's used to describe journalists, political rivals, and judges. It's a move that begins to echo the creation of a loyal enforcement class. Kingpin offers a fictional version fully realized. He builds a private army, operating under the illusion of law and order. In reality, they exist to crush dissent and reinforce his rule. They don't need legitimacy, they have authority by proximity to power. In each case, traditional law enforcement becomes too slow, too constrained, so they build a version that serves the leader, not the law. This is how democracies die, not in a single moment, but as laws are slowly rewritten and power is quietly centralized. When the enforcers take orders from a man instead of a constitution, the rule of law becomes optional. At this point, the question has to be asked: are these parallels accidental? Or is Trump, knowingly or instinctively, following the footsteps of authoritarians? Trump has praised leaders like Putin, Xi Jinping, and Kim Jong-un. Not critically, admiringly. He's called them strong, smart, powerful. Early on, this felt like political posturing, but in his second term, it feels more strategic. He isn't just praising strongmen anymore, he's emulating them. He has dismissed oversight, challenged democratic norms, hinted at extending his presidency, and called for loyalty over law. These aren't gaffes, they are signals. Even Kingpin mirrors this philosophy, fictional though he may be. He restores order, gains popularity, and tightens his grip while the public looks the other way. All three rely on the same excuse: necessity. Democracy is too slow. The enemies are too dangerous. Only one man can fix it. Maybe it doesn't matter whether Trump admires these leaders or simply mirrors them, because in the end, the result is the same. Democracy doesn't collapse with a bang, it fades with applause. History doesn't always repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Whether it's Chávez in Venezuela, Kingpin in fiction, or Trump in the United States today, the tactics are clear: centralize power, dismantle checks, demand loyalty, and outlast the rules. This isn't about left or right, it's about recognizing the warning signs before they become irreversible. If this made you think, share it, speak up. Because silence is how democracies die. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. New videos every week breaking down the forces shaping your freedom, your future, and your finances.